Why, hello and welcome back to all of my friends, my fans, and of course, all of you in the greatest fantasy football league on the planet, my fellow FTFLers, to the longest running weekly episodic fantasy football show out there. That's right, boys and girls, it is time for the FTFL weekly update. And of course, not only am I the host of this award-winning show, not only am I the man who has guided the Hulkamaniacs to not one but two league championships, I am also, that song, singing ever so sweetly deep within your heart. That's right, it is I, Brett Sieber. Week 1 is in the books. For some teams, it definitely did not go as planned. For others, boy, oh boy, it made last year look like, I don't know, hopefully, well, for one, in the rearview mirror, and for the other, longing for what might have been. So, again, I just mentioned, we talk about the teams week 1. It's tough to really get a sense of where we're at, but I'll tell you, one team outperformed every single game they played last week, just in week 1, and two of them underperformed their lowest point totals of the season if you were comparing this to last year. That is a rough way to start, if you ask me. There were 2 games this week decided by less than 3 points, and one on the final play of the week. We will get to that in a moment. Of course, we're all wondering a couple things. One, where's Peter's team after week 1? We are going to be tracking that. And more importantly, two, where is John Linkowitz? More on that at the end of the show. We are also, as we celebrate 10 years of the FTFL Weekly Update, we are bringing back one of my favorite segments from over the years. That is later on in the show. And, oh, by the way, Josh Allen is still a bum. With that being said, we might as well head off to the games. And wouldn't you know it, we're going to have to talk about that bum right out the chute. The Pack Attack taking on the Hulkamaniacs. Of course, I have held the series advantage over Eric. I did beat Eric in a fantasy bowl. This game, though, not quite in my favor. 108.5 for Eric to 94 for me. Now, going into Sunday night, I was up by 30-some points. However, Eric had the aforementioned bum. He also had Derrick Henry. I had the kicker for Baltimore, and I thought, well, odds are I should be able to pull this out. However, I knew there was definitely more than a chance that Eric would win, and of course he did, because the aforementioned bum got 32 points. Derrick Henry looked like a man that couldn't be tackled by anyone. He was outrunning D-backs, the safeties, the corners. It was kind of insane. I actually had a conversation with my neighbors. We were watching this game, and I thought, all right, how much money would it take to get in front of Derrick Henry moving at top speed? And at what point do you see him coming and think, you know what, I got kids, I got a wife, I got things I was hoping to do later on in life, and so maybe I'll just kind of feign an injury and get out of his way. That dude rolled for 28.5 points. Travis Kelce, 13. Run CMC. He played fairly well, 12.5 points. Eric's receivers, Mike Evans, Amon-Ra, and Xavier Worthy combined for 8.5 points. I could not take advantage of that. Zay Flowers was on Eric's bench, 19.5. This could have been a bigger victory for Eric. However, for me, the guy that I acquired, you saw the video of on the way down to the draft, Bijan Robinson, 21 points. Puka Nacua, Cortland Sutton, and Tyler Loop, all 13. Scary Terry with a very not so scary 1 point. Could have used more from him. Krosky Merritt, by the way, Bill, the guy that when I drafted him, you're like, oh, who's that guy? I'm like, well, he's possibly the starting running back in Washington. And oh, by the way, after Austin Eckler's injury, he is just that. He had 10 points out the chute, and boy, oh boy, Travis Etienne. In 23, he had a pretty solid season. Last year, not so much, was one of Jeff Keeper's. Maybe there's a correlation. You get him off of Jeff's team, the guy shines. I don't know, but the dude had a great day on the bench, 11.5 points for him. I fall to 0-1. Eric goes to 1-0. Both teams, the top two scores of the week. On to game number 2, my hotspot, of course, not my own hotspot. Taking on, I may suck at fantasy football, but at least I got my keepers in. Jeff wins this one in an absolute nail-biter. Going back and forth, Monday night, Matt has Caleb Williams, Jeff has Romeo Odunze. This thing is bouncing back and forth. By the way, also, Justin Jefferson is on Matt's team as well. Back and forth, goes down, fourth quarter, we're coming down. I mean, Caleb Williams is 8 yards away from, 2 points rushing. He's like 10 or 11 yards away from 2 more points passing. Jeff is up by, 2 points or 1 point or whatever it was. Caleb Williams, of course, completes a pass. So you're thinking, well, it's good. They're going to probably tie. Or no, wait, though. That pass was Romeo Odunze. So Jeff got the extra points, 92.5 to him, 90 to Matt. That is a tough loss for Matt. If you're Jeff, Lamar Jackson had 26 points. Chuba Hubbard, 11.5. Rome Odunze, 11. TJ Hawkinson, 1.5. Only player on Jeff's roster below 6 points. And as I mentioned, Jeff was the team who this week had a higher point total than any single game he played last year. The 14-game losing streak is over. If you're mad, a pretty solid start. However, not the result you were looking for. 18 points from Caleb Williams. Chris Boswell, 15 with a 60-yard field goal to help the Steelers win that one. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jackson Smith-Njigba both put in 12.5 points. Justin Jefferson, 10. Kenneth Walker III, 1.5. Breece Hall, 9 points on the bench. Had you played Breece Hall over KW III, you win. I know that's not how it always goes. Good start for Matt, however, 0-1. Jeff moves to 1-0. Last game before we take the break, the Mixing Cocktails coming on, taking on the Valhalla Vandals. Of course, Andy, defending, reigning, undisputed champion of the FTFL, taking on the man who had no keepers and not a single pick in the first round of the draft this year. No matter, 78.5 for Peter, 60 for Andy. Andy was one of the teams that I mentioned that scored fewer points than he did all of last year in any single game. If you're Peter, Brock Purdy, 16 points, although promptly out. He is injured, going to be out for a couple weeks. We'll see how Peter rebounds from that. I think probably going to be okay. He does have Justin Herbert, who had 26 on the bench. Deebo Samuel out there in Washington. Tell you what, if they're going to use Deebo and he's going to be that safety valve, could have been a sneaky pickup for Peter when it happened. 15.5 for him. Harrison Butker, J.K. Dobbins both poured in 11. If you're Andy, your top guy was Garrett Wilson, 15.5. Devin Achane on the hapless Miami Dolphin offense, 11.5 points. I can't believe he even had that many. Obviously, Miami under a huge microscope this week moving forward. Josh Jacobs, 10.5. Dak, 2 points. You want to look where Andy lost this game? It was probably right there. Dak, 2 points. Oh, also where Andy lost this game, Jamar Chase, 1 point. The Cincinnati Bengals, this cup is sweating. It is so hot in this place right now. It's September 14th right now. Summer. Pound sand. Andy did have 16.5 points on his bench. Wouldn't have mattered. He falls to 0-1. Peter rises to 1-0. And now we come to the little bit of a break where, as we look back on the 10 years of the FTFL weekly update, I thought, you know what? We're definitely going to take moments to have former guests. We're going to revisit former moments and bring back maybe a segment or two from the past. And this week, I was looking back through the archives. The year after I won my championship. So I won in 21. In 2022, it was a rough year. I was basically following along like previous champs before me, having a terrible season on my way to missing the playoffs and not even being respectful enough to defend my title in the playoffs. And during that year, I was taking acceptance with all the people who I felt had wronged me, who had gotten in my way of success. I called it simply the list. Well, it was the champs list. I can't call it the champs list now because I'm not actually the champ, but the list will make his triumphant return. And each and every week, instead of talking about the cringy nominee, because let's be honest, folks, if anyone besides Peter is winning this for not getting his keepers in, I don't know what we're doing, although I would be super intrigued to see exactly what could possibly outdo that. But each week, we're going to add a name to the list. The inaugural name for this year, 2025 FTFL Weekly Update list is a man who has been a pain in my ass for the last half decade. I watched a team run to the FTFL title in 2020 when it should have been me. It should have been me. Third place game, I outscored everybody that week. What happened in the week prior? I ran into that lowlife, that bum, that individual with gross, saggy, mildewy, old, wrinkly titties and balls. That's right, Ryan Deesum. And what happened? Well, what happened is every time I played him, basically, he beat me. So I didn't get a chance to go and take down the bum. In 2022, another franchise took the bum to an FTFL title. And this week, wouldn't you know it, here comes that damn bum again. I know if you're paying attention at home, I'm laying it on pretty thick. The dots are being connected for you. As we kickstart the list once again, it is my pleasure to announce the first individual that has officially made my list. Josh Allen, you're a bum. You always will be a bum. I feel bad. You live in a town or play for a town that I should have great admiration for. It's a blue-collar town. You play for a team that seems, that's never won a Super Bowl. I can maybe get behind you getting one. You even seem like overall a pretty good dude. However, time and time again, you have stood in my way in this league, and I'm done with it, Josh Allen. You have made the list. You are a bum, and I hope terrible things befell you with regards to fantasy football. That's right, just with regards to fantasy football. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Interceptions, incomplete passes, those kind of things. Everybody calm down. All right, well, now that the list is up and running, I advise all of you to keep yourself far away. But guess what? I'm going to be looking back into the history of the last 10 years of this weekly update, and I'm going to be digging out people who should also be on the list. All right, back to the games. Team Linkowitz taking on the Radioactive Monkeys, the Atom Bowl, if you will. This was one of those close ones. 70 for Adam Swart, 68.5 for Adam Saltmarsh. If you're Swart, Patrick Mahomes, 22, James Cook, 14.5, Bucky Irving, 10, A.J. Brown, half point. I got to believe this week the Eagles are going to do more to get him the ball, and if you're Adam Swart, you're probably thinking or hoping the same. For Saltmarsh, Jalen Hurts had 18, Jacoby Myers, who wanted off the Raiders, they said no. He's like, all right, I guess I'm going to keep playing. He had 10. Those were the only two people in double figures for Saltmarsh. DeAndre Swift, 5.5 points. Last year, he averaged 8.4. Drake London, 6 points. Last year, he averaged 9.1. If both of those guys touch their average, if one of those guys touches their average, Adam Saltmarsh is walking away from this game a winner, and he's 1-0. Instead, he's 0-1, while Adam Swart moves to 1-0. And last game of the week, Team Dickweed taking on Make Kramerica great again. This one, if you are Sid, I mentioned how a team had a worse single game than any game all of last season. This was Sid's lowest week one score of the last decade. Sid, traditionally a pretty good fantasy football team, and I get it. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. However, pause for Sid here, who only put up 56 points this week. John got 78.5. More on Sid in a moment. For John, Jaden Daniels, 14 points, who, by the way, I know this is for week 2, and I'm going to be talking about the games that are coming. Of course, one game has already happened. Jaden Daniels, ooh, boy. The darling of the league last year. Can throw the ball, can get out of harm's way, run all over the place. You can't stop this guy. Thursday night, Jaden Daniels could not find a way out of that wet paper sack. There just was no breaking through. And I can only imagine for quarterbacks like, you, Joe Flacco, and you, Aaron Rodgers, who are on the next few weeks here, the Green Bay Packers. Gonna be fun. Anyways, back to John. 14 for Daniels, 13 for the Denver defense. Saquon Barkley, 12 points. He averaged 16.8 last year. James Conner, 10. Nico Collins, 1.5 points. He averaged over 11 points a game last year. The Texans struggled out the gates, and there was struggles last year. I know people are looking at that one pretty closely. I'm sure John is as well. Now back to Sid. His high score this week was his kicker. Dicker the kicker with 11 points. No one else was in double figures. I told you, his lowest week one score in the last decade. Sid's top 5 picks in the first 3 rounds combined for 27 points this week. Again, it's week 1. However, Sid, we don't have to look far. Ask Jeff Markser what blowing those first couple round picks looks like. He'll tell you all about last season and his 14-game losing streak. Your losing streak stands at 1. You fall to 0-1. John moves to 1-0. Let's go the stud and the dud, and we'll talk next week. All right, stud this week. I'd like to say it was that bum, but because he's on my list, I'm not going to mention him. Instead, Derrick Henry, 28.5 points. Lamar Jackson, 26 points. Both of those guys, the Baltimore Ravens, that team, that offense, get yourself some of that. They are going to be putting up points all season long. Those two guys led their teams to victory this week, but not actually their own team to victory. Dud of the week, Burrow, Chase, and Higgins. Good Lord, you're spending some mad cash in Cincinnati, and a lot of people spent some high draft capital on those position players in Cincy. I know they start slow. Boy, they better figure it out, and they better figure it out fast. All right, week 2, here we go. The Pack Attack coming in at 1-0, taking on the Monkeys at 0-1. The Valhalla Vandals at 1-0, taking on Make Cramerica Great Again at 0-1. Team Dickweed at 1-0, taking on, I may suck at fantasy football. However, at least I got my keepers in at 0-1. Team Linkowitz 1-0, getting after my hot spot. No, at 1-0. And, someone's always got to go in that one. And, speaking of someone's always got to go, the last game next week, the Hulkamaniacs coming in at 0-1, taking on Mixing Cocktails at 0-1, the Brother Bowl. Let's see, a rematch of last year's Fantasy Bowl. Can't wait to see how it plays out. I am so excited that we are back. We're off and running. 1 week in the books, 13 more to go before we march into the playoffs. Please do not wish that time away. It is one of the greatest times of the year. I love sitting right here. I love watching football, and I love that we all are together once again in the FTFL. But until next time, my friends, peace! All right, so here's what I need you to do. I need you to find John Linkowitz.
Wait, you want me to pick up Adam Swart?
No, not Adam Swart. Linkowitz.
Right, but you said Linkowitz. Linkowitz, that's Adam Swart.
No, I know Adam Swart's team is named Linkowitz. I want you to find John Linkowitz.
Wait a minute. Well, hold on a second. So, Adam Swart's team name is Linkowitz. And John Linkowitz's team name is Dickweed. And you want me to pick up Linkowitz, so you want me to pick up Adam Swart.
No, not Adam. Team Dickweed. John Linkowitz. That's who I need you to find. We are wondering where he is.
You said find John. John. Okay, so I see. You know what? I see where I made a mistake there. Yeah. So you want me to find John Linkowitz, not Adam Swart.
Yes, John Linkowitz. Goodness gracious. All right. Well, good luck. We'll check back in soon. Thanks, Bart.
All right. Well, you know what? Yeah, I'll do what I can, Brett. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
After that, I don't think there's any chance we find John Linkowitz. Good Lord.